Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have stick shift take rates for 2024 model year sales. Well, this will restore a little bit of my faith in humanity, as we see some people still do appreciate having 3 pedals, also known as a stick shift, also known as a manual transmission, also known as the best way to drive bar none. Now, this comes with links to motor1.com. Specifically, Chris Perkins is right over there. Says, quote, "We ask every automaker how many customers went for manuals in 2024. Despite a thinning of manual transmission offerings, there continues to be a market for 3 pedal cars." Here you can see a little screenshot. I believe that is the... Yeah, it's got to be Lotus Stick Shift. The brand I know the least about, admittedly. Now, one of the first ones comes from us thanks to Acura, which, yeah, it really is just a Honda Civic Type R tricked out with nice leather and accoutrements, but it is technically a different brand, yes, just like how Toyota owns Lexus, but still counts. Now, it looks like the Acura Integra Type, again, this is Integra Type R, I believe, or they have their special name for it, Type S. The Civic is Type R, very different. Not mechanically, but you know what I mean. Now, the Integra Type S had a take rate of 19.8%. Now, they say that, quote, "Acura is the only automaker that sells a luxury compact with a manual transmission," which, come on, how is that a thing? I mean, no, spoiler alert, Lexus makes some, but those are much larger vehicles. They should probably shrink one down, but I partially digress. They note that, quote, "This year take rate was 19.8%, which was down from 22% a year prior, and Integra sales were down across the board, but it still accounts for nearly 5,000 vehicles. The manual transmission is also available on the A-Spec technology package, and is the only transmission offered on the Type S," because, again, the Acura Type S is the sister of the Type R. But still good to see that it still exists. You also have the BMW, which, yeah, that little coupe is growing on me. And the green is also nice. So BMW is one of the best brands out there. Although, admittedly, I can't help but think the BMW M series, or M CEO. So again, they have the CEO for the special division, kind of like Chevy used to have the SS Camaro or the Super Sport. The highest performance editions for the BMWs, well, the M series. And it's one of those instances where I'll never forget the CEO of that division of the company said, "Oh yeah, we're moving away from a stick shift because customers, it's not fuel efficient." Which, first of all, no one who has ever bought a BMW gives a damn about fuel efficiency. I mean, BMW has, fun fact, the longest mantra in automobile history sales for marketing. It's the ultimate driving machine, not a fuel efficient, everyday practical car. It's not a Toyota. And yet, I'll never forget the CEO of that division said, "Oh yeah, we're going to move away from it partially because of fuel efficiency." Which, if he was not inebriated drinking, German beer or other substances, he was apparently not making a joke either, which is even more bizarre. Now, the M2 came in at 50%, being the top model of the BMW portfolio. That came in a stick shift. Now, you have the M3 coming in at 20%. The M4 was at 15%. Then the Z4 is at 65%. Now, they note that, quote, "BMW was one of the rare automakers to add a manual transmission for 2024. The Z4 M40i edition," and I'm not going to purposely, well, I should clarify, I'm not purposely trying to butcher this, but it's called the Henschlader package. Maybe. It's German, so, above my pay grade. It shares its 6-speed manual with the Toyota GR Super Twin, and it proved popular. BMW tells us that 65% of consumers opted for the Henschlader package. They actually helped Z4 sales tick up last year. They say, meanwhile, BMW M sales are holding steady. The 6-speed take rate at the M2 is around 50%, while the M3 is at 20%, and the M4 is at 15%. That's about the same as last year. Now going towards American luxury and performance, you got the Cadillac, which there, man, the blue Cadillac CT 4 and 5, that just looks really good. Granted, it would be nice if they had more colors to compete with the luxury brands like Porsche that give you basically unlimited options. GM needs to step up their game, which, granted, that's something everyone says every day of the year, but still, Now, there you have the Cadillac CT4V Blackwing. It's about 50% take rate, and the CT5V Blackwing also around 50%. CT4V Blackwing, that's a twin turbo V6 engine. Then you have the larger one, that engine as well as seating area for the passengers. You have the CT5 Blackwing, that's a V8 with a stick shift. And it's even sadder when you think it's the only stick shifts General Motors makes. It's down to two, and both Cadillacs, which, again, with the amount of horsepower these put out, and nice huge Brembo brakes and track packages that they have, it's a great bang for buck, especially if you buy used. I mean, I got to drive with my buddy's CT4V Blackwings, and it was one of the most exhilarating experiences I've had from behind a car wheel. And I gotta say, it's probably one of the best things GM's made in 10 plus years. Granted, that's a pretty low bar, but still pretty great. Now they say, quote, while the Chevrolet Camaro is gone, Cadillac is the only GM brand that offers a manual transmission. It has also been the case that since launch of the CT4V Blackwing and CT5V Blackwing in 2022, manual take rates have remained strong. A spokesperson tells us it's around 50%, unchanged from the year prior. Now, you also have the good old American muscle, the Ford Mustang, the winner of the Pony Wars, as again, the Camaro was killed yet again, as GM has killed it multiple times in history. And the Charger is going to be an EV or a straight six with an automatic transmission. Oh yeah, the EV can't do burnouts, which, yeah, a muscle car that can't do burnouts, that's pretty ridiculously pathetic. Now, they note that they didn't give us the specific take rates, unfortunately, because Ford doesn't want to give us that data available, apparently. Now they say, quote, same as last year, Ford declined to provide the take rate figures, instead simply saying that, quote, Ford is proud to give customers a choice of a manual transmission with two great vehicles. The manual is available on the four-door Bronco and Mustang GT and the Mustang Dark Horse. The Mustang is unique, being the only car available with a naturally aspirated V8 with a clutch pedal, now that the Camaro is gone and the Challenger has been replaced with a new two-door Charger, which doesn't offer a manual because they're stupid, which so mentally vacuous, to say the least. And gotta give Jim Farley credit, the CEO of Ford. He says as long as he's in charge, they will make an affordable V8 sports car with a stick shift, aka a third pedal, unless the government just literally makes it illegal. So, gotta admire Ford for keeping up with American muscle. It's unfortunate it is getting a little bit more expensive every year. I believe now the GT, which is the V8 Mustang, starts around $46,000 or $47,000 before the government extortion tax and the gas guzzler BS tax and all that kind of crap and dealer markup. I also have the good old Honda Civic Si, though it is disappointing because the Gen 11 Civic Si is only available in bland, boring colors. I think there's like 5, and it's only 4 doors, which is even more disappointing. I love my Gen 10 Civic Si with the stick shift. The Si rather, only comes with stick shift. I appreciate that. I mean, it's very much Ford enthusiasts, very much like the Ford Focus ST that was only stick shift as well. Now, Honda Civic, it looks like the take rate was 7.2%. Now they say, quote, for decades, Honda has set the standard for manual transmission cars. Through 2024, saw it pare back some manual offerings. With 2025 Honda Civic facelift that arrived midway through the year, Honda still dropped the manual in all but its sporty Civic models, the SI and the Type R, which is a little disappointing because, again, the SI is obviously more expensive than the standard Honda Civic. There are some people who just want a manual transmission without paying for a slightly bigger engine and slightly bigger, better brake, rotors, calipers, all that kind of stuff, and better suspension. It is sad that just kind of the entry level, stick shift is gone from the Civic portfolio. Now, again, the SI isn't a hugely bombastically expensive sports car. Again, compared to the base price Civic, it is thousands of dollars more. And yeah, it's disappointing that the entry level Civic is no longer offered with the stick. Not too surprising because same thing happened with the Honda Accord years ago, when again, that used to be an option as well, and they've since killed it. Now they say, quote, given Honda sold over 240,000 Civics total last year, it's one of the most popular manual transmission cars out there, despite a single digit take rate percentage. We're curious to see how it changes for 2025 with fewer manual Civic offerings. So in theory, maybe this will increase the take rate for the Civic Si or the SI trim level in particular, because now it's the only option. And yeah, it might be conceivable because, again, that's a few $1,000s more than the base Honda Civic. But again, the Type R, that's like $45,000 before they kneecap you. I mean, my local dealership, which there's a couple of really good techs. I really like there's a couple of really great guys over there. But like the sales, they call it the market adjustment, which is BS. But again, idiots keep paying it, so they'll keep doing it. It's around $10,000 over MSRP. Then you add taxes, and you're paying about $65,000 for Honda Civic. Yes, it's the Type R, But at that price point, I think most people start looking at Porsches and other types of vehicles, especially if you go like a used Porsche Cayman. But I partially digress. It is, of course, great that Honda sells this offering. I love my Gen 10 Civic Si. Although it is sad, again, still 4 doors. Come on, Honda, get back to the coupes. But I partially digress. We also have Hyundai coming up, which, Hyundai's, I kind of appreciate. They're getting a little bit more angular every single year. I swear, probably about half of the cars that go for that just fail epically. This was kind of growing on me. It's kind of looks like origami in a good way. Now, this is pretty impressive. The Elantra N is around 30% take rate. Now, let's say, quote, Hyundai's only manual car is a great one. The recently facelifted Elantra N comes standard with a 6-speed manual transmission, and while it doesn't pack the sweetest manual out there, it's still the transmission we pick over the optional 7-speed dual clutch. We're in the minority, apparently, but the manual Elantra N sales are on the rise. Hyundai tells us that the take rate has ticked up from 25% to 30% compared to the previous year. So that's some good news. You got even more folks going for the good old stick shift, which again, if you want these companies to keep making stick shifts, not just politically, you need to write your politicians and say, hey, why don't you give us less regulations and not try to kill these things because of the emission standards and all this other crap. But you also have to send a message to manufacturers and say, hey, we want this. That's why you buy a new car if you fiscally can. Again, my car I got new. I had to stretch to get my Honda Civic Si new, but it was I believe the best option at the time. But again, I know not everyone can afford to buy a car. I think mine is now, 7 or 8 years old. And I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off. But I did my part. Dang it, I did get a new stick shift from the manufacturer. But again, we need more people to do that so they keep making these awesome vehicles. Now you have the classic, perhaps the best brand in automobile history is Jeep. I'm not a big fan of Jeep, but I'm very impressed from a business perspective that they still sell vehicles. This is the most unreliable piece of trash on the planet. It makes Range Rover look like a Toyota in terms of pinnacle of reliability. And people still buy it. I'm flabbergasted what kind of culture Jeep has built. And again, I know they're a fun off-road toy, but they are so ungodly unreliable. And yet people will still buy it and spend, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, whatever it is. I mean, it gets up there, especially when you get the fancy Rubicon package. And yeah, I'm very impressed with the overall vehicle that's still around. It's probably one of the best things in the whole Stellantis portfolio. Now, unfortunately, they don't give us a specific breakdown. They say, quote, as for the case last year, Jeep declined to provide specific figures for manual take rates. Instead, a spokesperson told us in a statement, the majority of customers prefer the 8-speed automatic transmission. Ugh. Despite the low demand, the Jeep brand will still continue to offer a 6-speed manual for those Wrangler enthusiasts who want the engagement and control. Now, the downside is, they say, quote, last year marked the end of the manual transmission for the Gladiator, which, again, the big debate is the Gladiator really a pickup truck? Which, no, it's not. It's just a Jeep with a bed of a truck. I don't think anyone would really classify it as a truck, which means, again, the only truck in North America, spoiler alert, is the Toyota. Now, you also have Kia, Hyundai's sister, which, it looks like they tried to copy Volkswagen with its redesign, which they copied it in not a good way. Now, they say, and it's even more sad, the take rate is 2%. That's where the accountants probably start to ask, are we starting to lose money on this? Granted, you could debate the value of having a quote-unquote halo car to get people excited in the brand. Now, they say, quote, last year marked the end of the Forte, which was with the new K4 taking its place. What do you think about BMW? You're calling yourself the K4? That's just silly. A lot of enthusiasts still didn't realize you can get a manual Forte, but a 6-speed was available on the top trim Forte GT, as was the same case last year. A spokesperson told us that the take rate was less than 2% of Forte sales. Ouch. Now, you do have the classic in terms of, being an enthusiast that's great for the track, the Lotus brand. The Brits do some things right. Well, not really. Usually the worst thing about these cars is the transmission and the engine, but thankfully, usually Toyota does that for Lotus, which means the old ones are, especially the Elise, darn near bulletproof for the powertrain. Everything else might break, but at least it will usually start. Now, the Mera V, is it really called the Mera V6? 86%. And again, if I won the lottery, I'd probably add that in the garage. It looks pretty cool. They've come a long way. I think I believe they're learning to backtrack. A couple of quarters ago, they said, oh yeah, we're going to go all EVs. Which again, a Lotus is supposed to be a lightweight 2-person vehicle for the track. That's fun, lightweight. And I understand every brand makes SUVs and crossovers. That's one of the biggest segments for consumers out there. It's one of the most profitable things automotive makers do. So Porsche makes one. But Yeah, to say you're going to make small cars that are EV, no, those aren't good track toys. They say, quote, after years of waiting, Lotus finally began the U.S. Emira deliveries early 2024. The 6-speed manual is only available with the Emira V6. The Emira Turbo pairs is, oh, interesting. They move away from Toyota. It's the AMG built 4-cylinder with an 8-speed clutch. Lotus tells us that 86% of Emira V6 consumers went for the manual. It's one of the highest take rates we've seen of any car, but we suspect that in the future, the overall Emira take rate will be lower as Lotus delivers more 4-cylinder cars, which, again, the fact that why would you have a 4-cylinder without a stick shift? That's one of the best. That's one of the best pairs of automotive history. I mean, shoot, the Honda Civic. I love my SI. It's a little boring in a straight line, as pretty much anything, including a Mazda Miata and someone in a wheelchair, will beat me on a straightaway on a track. But it is still fun in the corners, downshifting. But yeah, how is that gone from Lotus? That is ridiculous. Now, you have probably the best track toy, bar none, in terms of bang for your buck, the Mazda Miata, which I gotta give these guys credit. They still have that fun little car, despite the myriad of bloated U.S. regulations, not just from safety, in terms of, now you have to be able to hit a wall at 100 miles per hour and still walk away safely, but also with all the regulations, all that crap, and all their emissions, they still make a fun coupe with a stick. So you gotta admire Mazda. In terms of, long support, even better. Now, they also have the Mazda 3, which I think 3 or 4 people did buy. That does exist. I've seen them on the road from time to time. Maybe. I probably couldn't actually point out a lineup. Unless it's a Mazda RX-7 or RX-8 or the Miata, I don't think most people care. But in all seriousness, they did say that, quote, Mazda continues to offer 2 manual transmissions, the Mazda 3 hatchback and the Miata. The automaker declined to provide the take rate for the 3, which I help to think is probably so abysmal they don't want people to know, maybe. But the Miata, that manual take rate went up to from around 60% in 2023 to 70% in 2024. Perhaps that's because the automatic is now only available in the Grand Touring trim, effectively raising the 2-pedal Miata cost by around $5,000, which, yeah. I also wonder, Trump's going to do a lot of crazy cool things. What if you had a $7,500, you used to have a $7,500 tax break if you bought an EV. What if you had a $7,500 tax break if you bought a vehicle with a stick shift? Americans, we need exercise, and then, shoot, you got to, slam that pedal down and move a little bit more. And hard to text and drive or eat and drive or put makeup and drive when you're driving a stick shift, so you probably pay a little more attention to the road. I would argue thereby making it a little bit safer. What if we make America shift again? And I wonder if you can get a car for $7,500 off, or you got a $7,500 tax rebate from the government, would you go for a stick shift? Again, I don't think I doubt Trump would never do anything like that. He might make a joke and tweet about it. But I'm not hopeful that'll happen, but that'd be a cool way to keep the 3-pedal alive. Now, they also know that, quote, Mazda facelifted the Miata for the 2024 model year with a subtle mechanical improvements, making it one of the best sports cars and even better. Which, again, if you want to get into track or circuit car racing or just, going to the track every couple weekends, the Miata is the best car. I would say bar none. I love my Civic Si. It's a lot more practical because I can go to the range and I can fit groceries and stuff a little bit easier. But in terms of having cheap consumables for, tires, brake pads, rotors, and third-party support for aftermarket accessories, maintenance, and improvements, it is hard to beat the Miata club. It's called Spec Miata there's a whole category of racing for the Miatas. And bang for your buck, again, it'd be a great, fun little toy to have. And, good old Japanese engineering, I'd say, is moderately reliable as well. Now, I say moderately reliable Japanese engineering. Now we're going to go the opposite. The Brits, the Mini. Well, I suppose you could argue the Germans, since, again, BMW famously brought back Mini back from the dead when the company first killed the vehicle. So, again, that's part of the BMW portfolio. Now, they note that, quote, the Mini Cooper was about 15% take rate through February 29th, 2024. The Cooper S was about 50% through February 29th, 2024. Now, they also note that the Mini Cooper JCW was about 45%, which is pretty good. Though it's sad because, spoiler alert, they're making more EVs out of the Mini Cooper lineup. Now, they note that, quote, but Mini traditionally sold a lot of manual cars in the States. Their production was ended in February, which is sad. It was a pinnacle. It was right up there with the Volkswagen Beetle resurrection in the 2000s era, where you saw the sales go through the stratosphere. Past couple years, they've gone down a little bit. Still a fun track toy. I know a couple guys who take their Mini Coopers to the track. Obviously not as reliable as a Mazda Miata, but still a good, fun toy. Note that, quote, even still, the manual take rate was pretty high. While cars were available, 50% of all of them were sold, as we previously noted. Now they know that, quote, obviously that only represents a small fraction of the Mini Cooper models still built across 2024, as the fourth model generation began in 2024. Now we have another manufacturer which allegedly still makes cars. Nissan and the Nissan Z or the 400Z. I say allegedly because it's been a couple years. I've seen one Nissan Z. And it's not like I'm a docent. I go out of the house from time to time. I go to the track partially because, Toyota has a free track event and membership if you buy a new Toyota, at least in Texas, GR Supra, GR, or Toyota 86, or Corolla GR, sorry. If you buy that trim line, you'll get like the free membership in the package. So again, that's a little bit biased to the track. Those people are kind of there by default, but you see some that aren't in that group. I see a lot of the Toyotas, especially the Supras, but yeah, I've never seen one of these things at the track. They should. It looks like a fun little car. I believe it's still the only V6 twin turbo you get the stick shift new in North America as well. And again, they look pretty cool. Unfortunately, as mentioned in other videos, the dealers are marking them up comically, so it's highly impractical. The only people I saw it was a nice old couple at a grocery store. They were really polite. I poked my head inside, and it made me smile because it did have a stick shift, like they should all have by default. Now they note that, quote, Nissan declined to provide manual take rate figures for the past year, but in 2025, you still get two models from the company with a stick shift. The base Versa sedan, which comes standard with what is purely the last 5-speed manual on the market, and the Z sports car. Reimagine that Nissan doesn't make many manual Versas, but the Z sales finally took up in 2024, which, again, I still don't believe it. It actually passed the Supra for sales for new cars when you compare Supra and the Z, which, again, I still can't believe. Maybe they're all just throwing these things in warehouses and speculating they'll be worth a lot of money someday, which, I mean, some people, I think, foolishly do that with some vehicles, which, again, not financial advice. I would say when it comes to investments, yeah, your car's probably the worst things because on average, they usually all lose money with only a few outliers. I mean, it's kind of funny I say that because the next car, spoiler, probably will go up in value. But yeah, when it comes to Nissans, on average, no. You're not going to be able to retire off these. Just most people, again, not financial advice. Most people just get like an index fund. Now, fun custom cars, the Pagani, which, again, that is a work of art on wheels because of the low production numbers. And if you don't, trash it, it probably will go up in value. Now, this tape rate for the Utopia is pretty impressive at 70%. And it's one of the last big fun engines you can get out there these days. Now they say, quote, last year Pagani told us that globally, 70% of Utopia customers chose the optional 7-speed manual transmission. A spokesperson confirmed with us that it's the same case for U.S. customers. Pagani began deliveries of its third ever model last year. Quite obviously, we're only talking about a very small handful of cars globally. Pagani only built about 50 cars each year for the globe, and only plans to make 99 Utopia Coupes and 130 Roadsters, which it does look pretty cool. Not really a fan of the white cream color they chose for this specific vehicle, but how pathetic is that they did not mention the actual powertrain, which I believe is still the Mercedes with a V12, I believe, which V12, that is pure manly power there. You can't go wrong. It's half the allure of getting a McLaren F1. You get that nice BMW powertrain. Now, you also have the Porsche, which is one of the last true sports cars company dedicated to the third pedal, thanks to you. Specifically, if you live in North America, multiple times the German executives at Porsche have said and credited North America demand for a third pedal for why they justify and they say they will always make a stick shift because of the overwhelming demand for it. There's a couple years ago where actually Porsche said, especially when the automatic transmission surpassed the stick shift in terms of time or speed, 0 to 60, where they said, well, we think our brand is all about speed, so we're going to make automatic only. And the pushback was so viscerally, overwhelmingly against that idea that Porsche a couple decades ago said, okay, hey, as long as there's demand, we'll make the stick shift, and they've stuck to that ever since. Unfortunately, the country Germany has acquiesced and become so pathetic that they listen to the EU bullying them around and saying, oh yeah, you can't make the nice Porsche Cayman anymore because of cybersecurity reasons. It has to be an EV now. Or perhaps just because the government wants ultimate control to turn off your vehicle and dictate all the things in your life. But yeah, Porsche's saying, "Oh, okay, don't worry, EU. We'll make the Cayman an EV, so you can comply with your cybersecurity and your emissions. We'll make an EV Cayman, which again can't take to the track because it's an EV, and most tracks don't have track insurance for those types of things or the fire suppression technology to actually suppress EV fires. Oh, and you actually can't charge that in 20 minutes, which I would say on average that's about how much downtime we have between sessions on the track. There's a myriad of reasons why it's a dumb idea for the track use. Again, for going to the grocery store, sure, buy yourself a Nissan Leaf and I would argue feel dead inside. But yeah, I can't help but think personally, maybe conspiratorially, that's more about government control than anything else. but they still will have the 911. So the downside is heartbreaking for a lot of enthusiasts because the Cayman was entry level. I'd say entry level, quote unquote, because it's cheaper than the 911. To me, it's still stratosphere in terms of price point. I believe the entry level Porsche Cayman is about $76,000, which again, that is a astronomical high amount of money. It's a lot. It's almost incomprehensible. Now that being said, the 911 starts at around, what is it, 110 these days. So again, it was considered, quote unquote, the entry level into the Porsche sports car family, and unfortunately, thanks to government mandates, that's gone, or it will be soon, which is pretty depressing. Now, at least the picture looks good. I believe that's a 911 Carrera T, which, admittedly, I only know because it has a decal on the side of the door that says it. Although it's disappointing. I think every sports car should have a fixed wing. I know Porsche for the entry level ones has one that tilts up. But I partially digress. Now, they note that the take rate for the 718 Boxster and Cayman came in at 43%, which is a little disappointing. Even more disappointing was the 911. That was only 37%, which I know everyone will say how, oh, the PDK transmission is faster than a blinking of an eye, or can move faster than a fly landing on your pie and flying away, whatever like that. But again, it's a Porsche. You're supposed to be taking the track and downshifting in the corners. You're not going for 0 to 60 times. And again, nowadays, an EV will beat you off the line 0 to 60. It's a little sad, but I think that's kind of redefined the metrics even more around sports cars being more about the experience and actually, especially for the track. Where again, it's cliche. I'd probably say it twice a show, but one of the best feelings in life is downshifting into a corner and coming out with some speed and accelerating. And again, just so much more interactive with that third pedal. I can't recommend the experience enough. That's why I've only ever bought and owned cars with 3 pedals. Now, going to the actual substance of what they're talking about Porsche, they say, quote, Porsche has a very robust business selling manual cars. Just look at what people are willing to pay for a manual-only 911 ST. Porsche provided us with a take rate for a 718 and 918, where is a choice of transmission models. In other words, not necessarily 43% of all 718s, another ones I mentioned. They note that the take rates were about the same as last year, and we know Porsche is committed to making manual cars. The new Carrera T, complete with the shift pattern decal on the quarter windows and the MT badge on the shifter, is proof. Now, you also have another brand that 18 people still care about and like, mostly in Colorado, but you also have Subaru, which, again, the fact that the STI is only automatic is an abomination. I kind of think maybe similar to the Toyota Supra, after an overwhelming demand of the consumers, they will acquiesce and make it with a third pedal, as they should have by default. Again, the base models have it. That's awesome. But the STI, which is supposed to be the pinnacle WRX, make a pure track toy. Right now, they're saying, hey, we're going to come out with that, but it will only have 2 pedals. Which, again, one of the most important things in business is know your audience. Now, which is perhaps why I make these videos. I need to make these videos shorter because, you know, the take rate on these videos, speaking of the take rates, or, you know, the duration people watch isn't the best. So always like for room for improvement. Let me know in the comments what I could do better to increase that. Now, the BRZ comes in at 77.8%, which is a fun little 2-door coupe. I mean, those things, and again, it's the same as the Toyota 86. Well, it also used to be the Scion FRS. If it was reliable, it'd probably be more palatable for people to buy. And they also know that the WRX, probably one of the best ones, at 86.7%. And they say, quote, Subaru continues to be one of the top sellers of manual cars in the US, even if the base Impreza Crosstrek are now CVT only. Those ladies will be very disappointed, I'm sure. As was the case last year, the BRZ manual take rate is holding strong at a little under 80%, while the WRX increased from 74% to 86.7%. That's pretty darn good. We see right now, with 18,587 sold in total across 2024, and thus 16,115 manuals, the Rex is one of the most popular manuals in the country, which is pretty nice. Speaking of the Subaru BRZ, you got the Toyota 86, which, again, same thing, was made in joint partnership, although I would argue it's not really a Toyota because the engine is a Subaru, which I'm not saying they'll all grenade and explode, but it might be one of the only times in your life where you actually do respond to the cold call of, we'd like to extend your car's warranty. I'm kidding, those are all scams, but in terms of having a factory warranty, probably want to have that. Now, they note that Toyota portfolio is quite diverse. They have the GR86, which, yeah, as you see right there, is a fun 2-door coupe, great track toy. They also note the GR Corolla. Now, this one's a little artificial because, again, the GR Corolla, a little sad for the purist community. They have introduced a automatic transmission for that vehicle, which I would argue, I understand you'll probably sell more in volume, but why don't you just force people to learn the transmission that's really the platform is intended for? about 2 pedals despite the entry-level Corolla, which is the most popular vehicle ever sold in history. Now, again, they know that GR Corolla is at 97%, but that's only because right at the end of the year, they introduced the model with 2 pedals. Prior to that, it was 100% because it's all they offered, just like the Ford Focus ST or the Ford Fusion ST. No, not the Fusion, sorry, the Fiesta ST. Those are really fun track toys when they don't explode or break down because it's a Ford. Now, they also note that the GR Supra, which is the top trim level for the Supra, came in at 65%, while the only truck left in North America, the Tacoma, came in at 2%, which, a little disappointing. It's such a small percentage point. And yeah, if I won the lottery, I'd definitely buy myself a Tacoma because not only is it 3 pedals, but you can get it in a fun green color, which there's actually like 10 for sale that are used. Granted, it's not my budget or my need at the moment. Most of the IT infrastructure deals that my company goes to data centers and actually deploys, most of the infrastructure, hardware actually gets to the customer. We don't deliver it these days. So not much of a compelling reason for me to have one yet. Now, they note that, quote, Toyota manual take rate actually went up for 2024. Excellent. The GRD6 rising from 48% to 53%. Supra's going from around 43% to 65%. And the Tacoma going from 1.4% to 2%. So as sad as 2% is, it actually is technically an improvement. And again, it's the only truck in North America you can get with a 3rd pedal new. It's so disappointing that the big 3, famously, Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, they all acquiesced to having 2 pedals decades ago. I believe Chrysler Dodge specifically was the last one. I think it was 2013? They get a true full-size truck with a stick shift. This is a great truck, but it's a lightweight truck, so you can't haul too much. Now they say, quote, and before you dismiss the 2% for the Tacoma, consider that Toyota sold, wow, that's insane. So 2% Tacoma, that's 192,813 Tacomas total in 2024, making the manual pickup a decently strong seller by volume, which, yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't know they sold that many Tacomas total. They know that the GR Corolla only just recently added a new automatic model with production starting late last year, hence the extremely high take rate for the vehicle, as I have mentioned. Now, you also have, somehow still in business, Volkswagen, somehow. It used to be a great company. Then, hilariously, they said the quiet part out loud. The CFO said, oh yeah, we have about, now it's probably about a year and a half before we're insolvent as a brand. Again, the VW portfolio has many awesome cars, including Bugatti, Ducati, Lamborghini, Porsche. But yeah, when it comes to the actual brand of Volkswagen, that's kind of hurting. And I only have 2 friends who have them. One really loves it, and one really hates it. So, granted, and a comically small sample size, but of the very few people I know who have them, which doesn't bode well for their brand, because, spoiler, I do have more than 2 friends, even more acquaintances, now that I think about it. But yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, Volkswagen's in some hot water. They have been for years. Now, the take rate for Volkswagen, specifically the Jetta, came in at 6%, with the GLI coming in at 38%. I believe that's what they have pictured there, which, yeah, looks pretty cool, but I'm not sure who's copying who. It kind of looks like the Honda Civic Si. Looks like they're borrowing each other's designs a little bit. Not too unfamiliar, that look from the side shot there. They note that the Golf GTI come in at 41%, and the Golf R come in at 52%. Now, they say, quote, unfortunately, 2024 was the last year for the manual Golf GTI and Golf R, thanks to the corruption and ineptitude of the European Union and governments around the globe. They didn't say that. I did. Because again, they've said it multiple times, Volkswagen in particular, they said we cannot sell these in Europe, so that's why I killed in that market, and all these other ones, unfortunately, decreases the amount of units they could sell, so it increases the cost per unit sold, and they can't spread the development costs around even more volume of vehicles. So yeah, yet another example of government interference destroying people's lives and hobbies. Now, they say, quote, that helped drive manual sales for both models, because since last year, take rates the GTI and Golf R taking up from 45% and 38% respectively. Both hatchbacks saw big sales increases last year, so people clearly wanted to grab the manual transmissions while they still could. The Jetta saw a huge increase of... Really? Yeah, wow, that's comically impressive. Again, 6 sounds pretty small, but it's all relative. Is that pun intended, or was it? I don't know. But they say, quote, the Jetta saw a huge increase of 51.5% year over year, but the manual take rate went down from 3% to 6% overall. So, yeah, when you have all the models and everything like that. Now, they know that, quote, a facelift introduced partway through the year saw the discontinuation of the manual option for the base Jetta and Jetta Sport, which, yeah, well, one of those things where why take these fun things away? I know we've talked about why thus far, myriad of reasons, but again, it's getting harder and harder to get an entry-level vehicle to stick shift. You basically have to pony up and pay up for one of these sportier models, which again are more fun, but if you're on a budget, it makes it much more difficult. Now they say, quote, however, the GLI manual sales went up from 33% in 2023 to 38% in 2024. Perhaps the take rate could take the take further in 2025, now that it's VW's only manual offered in the US, which is pathetic. That's the only one they have these days. That's so sad. So again, you got some really awesome vehicles here. I'd love to hear one in the comments. Maybe even if, yeah, what of all the stick shift vehicles we discussed today, which one do you choose now? And then if you won the lottery, which one do you choose? I mean, it's cliche to say you just want the most expensive one, which again, that would be bar none the Bugatti. I think that's $4-point-something million, which again is a pretty penny to say the least. I'm a little disappointed they didn't put the MSRPs here. Historically, the Mazda Miata is one of the cheapest, most entry-level vehicles to get into for the stick shifts. And I believe on this list, maybe the BRZ is slightly, maybe it's about the same. But yeah, let's just say if I won I won the lottery ticket, the Porsche 911, because again, you have the coolest colors of greens, and well, the Turbo S is way over 200 miles per hour in terms of top speed. It's 205, which to me there's something magical and amazing about breaking that 200 mile per hour barrier. I know it's in automobile history that, I mean, shoot, I believe it was the Ferrari F40 first major production car to do that. And that was decades ago. I know it's no longer the pinnacle, but like from my childhood, to me, there's something about having the pinnacle of breaking that 200 mile per hour. So if I won the lottery and you couldn't resell the car, Pagani would be fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they take measurements of you. You fly over to Italy. They make the car fit you like a glove. And that is a unique, amazing experience. But for practical driving every day, probably the 911 Turbo S in signal green with obviously a stick shift. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.